Hello and welcome to this episode of The Rest is Entertainment with me, Marina Hyde.
And me, Richard Osman. Hello, Marina. You sound like and you look like you're a long way away.
I'm very far away and underwater, Richard. I am in Kefalonia, so we are parted, which you know I hate. I'm missing you, but it is beautiful here.
Oh my God, it is so beautiful. It's lovely. But listen, it's not going to stop us talking about entertainment, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not, Richard. We're in a maelstrom right now. We're going to talk today definitely about, well, what we were originally talking about was a sort of Paramount deal going through and finally Trump's giving approval to the deal, and then the unbelievable South Park episode and the fallout from that and the fallout from all the different angles of things that have been done to appease Trump in the Paramount deal. So that's one subject, which has got many angles.
We're also going to talk about Adam Sandler, how he became the most bankable entertainment star in the world, basically on the back of Happy Gilmore 2, which there's very few people in the world who are bigger fans of Happy Gilmore 1. I will give you my review of Happy Gilmore 2 later.
And we're going to talk about Grow a Garden, which you may or may not have heard of, but which is an unbelievably successful game on the Roblox platform. And it's a sort of funny story and it's fascinating, and we can talk about that as well.
And you're going to explain to me exactly what Roblox is as well, because I've heard of it many times, yet to live through it.
But we're going to begin by talking about South Park, Trump, the Paramount deal.
Possibly one of the most famous and controversial episodes of any TV show ever dropped this week, which is South Park's first episode of their new season, in which a number of things happen that directly relate to Donald Trump. It has been super massive. If you haven't watched it, it's on Paramount Plus in the UK, but people seem to have watched it in other places. But it has caused an absolute sensation. It calls into question a number of things: the cancellation of Stephen Colbert, CBS's capitulation and paying off Donald Trump for a court case, and also sort of the future of satire. So shall we try and unpick all of those knots?
Let's. I mean, we must say that the episode, unlike so many highly anticipated things, did not disappoint.
Yes, it is. Whatever your view of it, it is certainly a piece of television that is quite something.
Very brief background explainer. Paramount has been seeking to be sold by its kind of legacy owner, Shari Redstone, and they've been trying to push this deal through for a long time to sell it to David Ellison, the sort of, 40-ish year old kid of billionaire Larry Ellison. And if that sounds like the sort of person who might turn up in a South Park episode, I definitely wouldn't rule it out now. Anyway, Paramount owns various different things, part of which is CBS. And so you might remember that lawsuit that Trump had against CBS News, which was a bullshit lawsuit, sorry to say. But CBS completely caved on that, and they paid him $16 million. And he has stated that he's also getting $20 million worth of free ad airtime in the form of PSAs, public service announcements. Remember PSA, because we're going to come back to that one. Stephen Colbert, The Late Show, has been canned.
It's literally The Late Show now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it quite literally is. Now, that show's been going for decades, obviously, originally started by David Letterman. Late night is in a lot of trouble in terms of viewership. It doesn't make what it made anymore. But obviously, the timing is somewhat suspicious, coming so close to them desperately trying to get this deal through the FCC, which is run by a little Trump minion called Brendan Carr.
And Colbert himself, on his show, after CBS has settled that $60 million lawsuit, he called it a big fat bribe on the show, and very soon afterwards was cancelled. There are arguments either way as to whether it was an indirect response to it, and we will discuss that, but certainly that's what happens. So you think, okay, no one else surely inside that umbrella of companies is going to take on Trump. Step up, Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Yeah, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who are the creators of South Park. This is a sort of unrivaled property on American TV in that it's been going for 28 years with the original creators, and I suppose you could say something like SNL, maybe Saturday Night Live, is that sort of an idea. But basically, there aren't shows like this that the same people keep making, and it's very, very, very successful. So try and imagine the two deals happening. They also have a deal, which was one of the craziest deals ever given to talent in history, which is Matt Stone and Trey Parker were given 50% digital rights to their shows of revenues about 15 minutes before like the whole of TV went digital. But anyway, and then people were saying, well, there was a point, this negotiation been going on for ages because they have an overall deal which is to produce their show. And then they also have this very, very special carve out that you don't see anyone else get, which is they get 50% of streaming rights. And that deal was up for renewal.
Yes, so they had signed it with Warner Brothers, I think, for a huge amount of money for the streaming to go on HBO Max.
Yeah, it aired on Max, yeah.
Yeah. And so, it was up for negotiation this year. I wonder if you could tell our lovely listeners how much Matt Stone and Trey Parker sold the next 5 years of streaming rights for.
Well, first of all, they issued a statement not that long ago. So it was a very, very fractious deal, this whole thing, because the new owners, David Ellison's coming in and he said, well, we don't want to just make a 10-year deal with these guys. We don't, we have to be able to have some say in this. And Matt Stone went out and put a statement out and said, the deal is fucking up South Park. So they had to then put a break on whether they were going to release the new season and when that was going to come until the deal was done. Okay. The deal that they have just done, in fact, the day before or whatever the South Park episode came out, which we're definitely going to come to because that was quite something. They take $275 million per year for a 5-year deal. And then the streaming rights have been sold for $1.5 billion, which, as I say, thanks to one of the all-time amazing deals for creators, they get 50% of. So it's about a bit more than $2.5 billion for the next 5 years that they're going to split between each other in order to make their brilliant and very rude show.
One imagines they've been paid $2.5 billion by this company. They'll start towing the company line. I would have thought the first episode of the new season will be some sort of, maybe a sort of a beautiful biopic about David Ellison and what a wonderful man he is. But no, they chose to do something very, very different.
Yeah, it's interesting because honestly, as late as last year in September, they were saying, oh, we're not even going to be on air during the election, the US election. We're completely sort of done satirizing Trump. They said, I don't know what more we could possibly say about Trump. Matt Stone said, well, they do now, because the episode that aired last Wednesday explicitly featured Trump. In previous seasons, if you watch it, I watch it, Mr. Garrison had functioned as a kind of Trump avatar. So it wasn't Trump, but you knew that it was really Trump, within the sort of world of the show. Anyway, the episode is called Sermon on the Mount. So it's basically about Paramount. It's incredible to think that absolutely every single person involved in that deal and Trump and like the whole world just got absolutely, it's like a biggest screw you possible to all of them. So it was sort of about religion in schools. And obviously they use that as a jumping off point, as they always do, to go to other places. The Trump stuff, you saw him in bed with Satan. He was very much the original Saddam character that they used to do. He looked exactly like that, except he had Trump's exact head, in their kind of cut out animation put on top. But I did tell you to remember PSAs. There was a lot about Trump's tiny penis and so on all the way through. And then it ended with a PSA. Now, this was not the kind of comic book cartoon version of South Park. This was an AI deepfake of Trump. It was a PSA stumbling, like shedding all his clothes naked through the desert. It was incredibly good, this AI. By the way, it's an amazing deepfake. We all love AI now. Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who obviously have quite a lot of money, as discussed, bought a deepfake company at the end of 2022. I don't know what else they've been using it for, but, if this is the only thing they do with it, well done. It was something to behold. Anyway, and then the episode ended with that incredible deepfake of Trump talking to his own minuscule penis. Matt Stone was on stage at Comic-Con like a day after or something. And he said, oh my God, we had like 4 days in rooms with actual grown-ups arguing about that penis. And the way we eventually got it through is they put these little eyes on the penis. So they said it was a character. I don't know how that gets you through Paramount standards and propriety or whatever it is. But anyway, it's apparently enough.
They did exactly the same thing on Lost in Summer Wine, didn't they? Same plot device.
Yeah. Anyway, they were editing this thing right up to the last minute after, getting their multi-billion deal. I also love that Shari Redstone had the episode described to her by executives. So obviously with Shari with a hanky to her nose, can't bear to watch it. Don't worry, love, it's only 20 minutes. But anyway, she couldn't get through it. And what happened with Trump's White House? Did they, just rise above it? You don't have to acknowledge this stuff. Or did they respond by saying, they did what they in fact did. They said the show, this was unfunny. The show hasn't been relevant for 20 years and is hanging on by a thread with uninspired ideas in a desperate bid for attention. I mean, listen, I always give 2.6 billion to people who nobody cares about and nobody watches and have no relevance. Of course, they're probably richer than him now. I mean, formally, not what he says he's got.
The interesting thing here is, of course, Trump sues everybody. That's his first line of defense against things. Trey Parker and Matt Stone are sort of trying to lure him into suing them because that is a court case that they would absolutely love, presumably.
Yes. And I mean, there are certain people who shouldn't, who are in litigation and it's going to be tricky for them. Rupert Murdoch is being sued by Trump. It basically snarls up all your business deals. If you're a company and there's anything you want to do, if you're in litigation with Trump, it's very, very difficult. And this is basically what happened with the whole, with the umbrella company of Paramount. And so obviously people at CBS News are very, very angry about the suing and all of that sort of thing, and the caving to his lawsuit, which, as I say, was a rubbish lawsuit. And they came in for attack. There were these incredibly cowed and craven CBS 60 Minutes anchors on that South Park episode. So they really have just scattergun attacked everybody. But yes, I think they would love him to sue, and they will continue to push. And who knows? I mean, Larry Ellison's kid, David Ellison, as I say, really did sound like a guy that you might have in a South Park episode. But Matt Stone originally said, oh, no, we're not going to have him in. He seems like a really nice guy. I've met him a few times. We're not going to, I mean, again, they also said they weren't going to satirize Trump anymore. So clearly I wouldn't set too much store by that. But it's very interesting now because there is this sense in the US that Trump can just get all these things cancelled, whether or not it's true that Colbert was cancelled to push this deal through, that they settled the lawsuit with Trump to push this deal through. These guys don't care at all. In fact, they would love nothing more than to have. I mean, it's the best content for a show possible. You'd be watching it every week. And other people are feeling they have to pull back, or, I see Jon Stewart, who's also on Comedy Central, saying, oh, well, I think I'm safe for now, but really having a go at them for cancelling Colbert.
Comedy Central also owned by Paramount, or the Paramount Skydance Corporation.
And so South Park is, as I say, such an unusual thing in American culture. And there are people who it's quite misunderstood by certain people. The left has been complaining about South Park for a long time because they felt like it was, it's offensive.
Not anymore, they're not.
Now they're not complaining. No, now they're not complaining. And, anyone who describes them as centrists is, I don't know, centrist is like a sort of I don't know, it's a bit like neoliberal. It's one of those words that people use and they don't really know what it means. They just want to say that they don't like that person. I definitely don't think, if you know anything about them, that Matt Stone and Trey Parker are centrist at all. I mean, they're probably natural Republicans. They're definitely libertarians, but they don't really care about offending anybody. And they definitely would love to be embroiled in a lawsuit with Trump. It's quite hard to see where it goes from here in a way that's not incredibly embarrassing to Paramount all the time, because now everyone's watching this show. And by the way, the reason they got all that money is because South Park is, in terms of the things that are really popular on streaming, obviously you've got things like Friends, which are the most popular, but South Park's really not far behind. And there is so much content, there's 27 series or whatever it is. Teenagers love, my kids love South Park. They find it absolutely hilarious. And they love the back catalogue, but they love the new episodes. And these are people who were obviously not even, were not born halfway through its kind of season run so far. Plus, unlike Friends, these guys are making at least 5 years of new episodes. So it's a very, very valuable property. And only the kind of serial awful management of Paramount had given them all these rights. I mean, don't forget that you still can't show Yellowstone on Paramount Plus because all the Taylor Sheridan shows are Paramount's biggest shows. It's such a sort of basket case of a company that you can show some of the spin-offs, and you can show Tulsa King, and you can show Lioness and Mayor of Kingstown and all the other shows, and Landman. But lots of the Yellowstone things you can still only watch on NBC because their two sort of biggest money spinners were on other platforms.
Can I raise one point and one question? The point is, a fascinating thing about South Park, which makes it different to all other those big long running animation shows which take a long time to do. South Park is incredibly quick turnaround. The way they animate it is computer animation and a version of cutout animation, which means it's more like a Saturday Night Live because it has a weekly schedule. They start writing the previous week and deliver it within 6 days, which is why they're able to do topical things and topical episodes.
Unlike Saturday Night Live, it is funny.
And why next week's South Park is going to be particularly interesting, because next week's South Park will be all about this week's South Park. Or, knowing the South Park people, they'll do something completely different. But it is in their wheelhouse to be able to make it all about this week's South Park. So that's what's always sort of set South Park apart from everything. It's the two of them. Occasionally they'll have script editors and writers and things. They do most of the voices themselves. They do most of the production themselves. They turn it around super quickly, so it's incredibly reactive. My question to you is, there was an awful lot of gnashing of teeth when Colbert was taken off air and they said this is capitulation. Why would Paramount Skydance agree for this episode to go out if they were in the business of capitulating to Trump? So does it put the Colbert cancellation in an entirely different light?
Well, within the world of the South Park satire, not really. They clearly think that they're capitulating on all sorts of things. To me, the Colbert cancellation is inevitable, and all of late night no one actually really watches late night. Yes, they watch the viral stuff, they watch the clips, they watch all the things, and they still have that kind of presence in American culture via that thing. But the idea that they watch late night and sit down to watch it isn't what it used to be.
And it's still incredibly expensive. Like to make, it is incredibly expensive. The salaries, the staff, everything. It has a legacy price for a 21st century audience, and that doesn't make sense.
I couldn't agree more. And I have long believed, I just remember I can't remember when I read this book, but it was maybe about like eight years ago. It's a great book about Letterman by a guy called Jason Zinnerman, who's the New York Times. He wrote about comedy for the New York Times. And it's so interesting, in those years when Letterman, those guys bestrode those huge, big late night shows, people all across the spectrum tuned into those. And everybody, the political spectrum I'm talking about, now they are completely siloed, kind of in, anti-Trump, Democrat, sort of pro-Democrat shows. And as a result, like half the people don't even watch and aren't even aware of them and think that they are kind of, liberal, for want of a better word, liberal stooges. I do think the interesting thing about South Park is that Trump's normal thing of saying, this is just the liberal elite attacking me, et cetera, I don't think anybody thinks the guys who write South Park are liberal elite. I mean, you just don't think that. And anybody who has ever watched it, no matter what political persuasion they are, doesn't think that those guys are liberal elite, because they spend a huge amount of time taking the piss out of woke and all of those sorts of things.
It's very hard to name a satirist or a satirical show which has laid a hand on Trump at any point. Has done something that's
this
really
one has now
cut through. Exactly. It sort of feels like the first time. Tom Lehrer, the wonderful lyricist who sadly passed away at the weekend, he gave up satire. He said, "The world scared me so much, I got to the point I felt like I was a citizen of Pompeii being asked to say something funny about lava." And that feels like what the last 10 years has been. This will be swept away, I'm sure, by something else. But it feels like the first thing to lay a glove on that regime, perhaps.
And it doesn't change anything. And as you said, like that great old Peter Cook line about the cabarets in Weimar, Germany, that did so much to stop the rise of Hitler. Okay, we know it doesn't stop things. Having said that, I find it so embarrassing that they actually issued a statement. Once you've watched the episode, you think, I would simply not acknowledge that this thing existed. And now it's like, I mean, everyone's got to go and have a look for it now. And the micropenis character, all of it is coming back. Yes, I definitely think, and he's so obviously hurt by it, they don't care. you can't say that they're irrelevant, no one cares about them. They've just done a massive, massive deal that, as I say, probably makes them richer than Trump, real money, not the money he claims to have. I do think in terms of allowing them to do that, sometimes people will have like one licensed area of their company, which is used as a sort of fig leaf for all the other capitulations that they make. And I don't see what else they can do with South Park. First of all, they need the money. Listen, the company was sold for just over $8 billion, and they've just done a $2.5 billion deal for this thing. Okay, so that's how worth it is to that company. So what are they really going to do? You just bought this thing. What are you going to do next? I mean, you're going to say, no, Taylor Sheridan, we don't want any of your shows either. They have to like these people. It will be interesting to see how that talent relationship continues.
It will be very interesting. And certainly next week's episode is going to be fascinating because they're literally writing it right now. Fun to imagine what they're going to write it about. If you want to watch that, if you haven't seen it already, it is on Paramount Plus over here. I seem to talk to an awful lot of people who've seen it, who I don't believe are subscribers to Paramount Plus. So it seems to have been shared via various other places, but Paramount Plus is the official home of it in the UK.
I mean, it'd be amazing to discover what the actual broadcast ratings for that were, because so many people were saying, "Oh, I've got to watch South Park tonight." It was appointment to view. And I think a lot of people will have actually just watched it live on Wednesday night before it went onto streaming.
Shall we go for an advert break?
I think we should.
Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Sky.
Which means it's time to talk about Mr. Big Stuff, the Sky original comedy which earned Danny Dyer a BAFTA for season 1.
His first BAFTA. He returns as Lee, a man reacting to major life developments with self-pity, avoidance, and long afternoons in a garden chair.
His brother Glenn, played by Ryan Sampson, the show's creator and a fan favourite from Brassic and Plebs, takes a different approach, launching an investigation despite having no qualifications beyond stress, impulse and alarming levels of determination.
One of those shows that is not exactly what you expect, but also such a great reminder that the mighty Danny Dyer is such a colossus in the middle of our culture.
It's sharp, it's chaotic, it's tender, with cameos from Linda Henry, Sean Williamson and Rula Lenska to keep things grounded.
Also, Danny Dyer is one of those people, if you turn up on a TV show and he's also on, you think, oh, we're in for a fun day here. And also, whenever you're watching a TV program or a film and he turns up, you're thinking, oh, we're in for some fun here. Listen, I'd watch him on a film, I'd watch him on an entertainment show, I'd watch him on Mr. Big Stuff.
All episodes of Mr. Big Stuff Series 2 are available on Sky, and Series 1's there too if you'd like to trace the spiral back to its source. Requires relevant Sky TV subscription.
Welcome back, everyone. Marina, from the chaos of South Park's Trump episode to the gentility of Grow a Garden, which has become an enormous success on Roblox. Can you talk me through what any of those words mean?
I'm quite close to the Grow a Garden phenomenon, Richard. I have 3 Grow a Garden players in my family.
That's 2 of the kids and your husband.
And yes, I can tell you quite a lot about, Grow a Garden and how big it is. It's interesting. It's on the Roblox platform, which is a platform that has free games on it, and anyone can sort of create them. They're pretty lo-fi, but they are they have millions and millions and millions of people playing all the time, and different games become kind of really big, and then fade away, and some kind of behemoths that kind of keep going. If you've never been on it, they're mostly sort of younger players, but although lots of adults play them, they're very low tech, weirdly. But it's massive. And it's interesting that we led with a story about a company that's just been sold for 8 billion. Roblox is currently, its market cap is like 80 billion or something. And so perhaps we're doing these the wrong way around. Anyway, but a lot of people, their share price, went up about 21% in recent weeks. And there is some suggestion that a huge amount of that is due to the popularity of one game on it, Grow a Garden, which is currently the most popular game on Roblox. Can I, before we do the statistics, let me tell you what Grow a Garden is.
Yes, please. As
I said, if you're not used to what I would call the Roblox aesthetic, it's very lo-fi. You essentially get an empty plot. It looks like sort of, it's kind of looks sub-Minecraft. You get an empty plot of farmland.
So can I just say, this is on a computer?
It's on a computer. Okay. Yes, Richard. It's on a computer.
Now it makes a lot more sense to me. I was really worried about land values.
Yeah, you get an empty plot of land, farmland. You start with something like 20 shekels, which is the currency, and you need to buy some seeds, and then you need to plant seeds and tend to your garden and wait for them to grow into lovely plants. You can acquire exotic pets. And, you can sell stuff. You can go to the seed shop to buy more things. You can go to the gear shop. You can sell your wares. And, it's sort of quite calming and relaxing in lots of ways. Although, of course, there are some users who found kind of ways around this to make it less pleasant.
Plant Wars.
I
feel like I've played games like this before. Like SimCity had like a Sim Farm version and things like that.
Well, there was Farmville, wasn't there? And Stardew Valley. So it sits in that kind of tradition. And anyway, let me just blind you with some of the statistics first, because not last weekend where they actually did have a new update. They have an update every Saturday. The previous Saturday, July the 19th, they had 22 million concurrent users for that update, which is by far a platform record, as I say, on this already unbelievably successful platform. It beats things like...
Even Fortnight, I think Fortnite's record was 16 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was, culturally one of the biggest things in the world. It's got 22 million concurrent users.
Yeah, there was a May update where they had more concurrent users than all the top 100 Steam games combined. Every game on the Roblox platform is created by somebody. And actually, this one is quite interesting. It only came out in March, by the way. And it's amazing how these games kind of sweep to absolute prominence. This kind of viral thing where, and I'll talk to you about at the end about what I think is coming after this one. And the creator was a guy called BMW Lux, but he...
Is that his real name?
Yes, I think it is on his birth certificate. I'm not sure in which order. Could be Lux BMW.
Mr. and Mrs. Lux, daughter BMW.
And anyway, whoever that creator was, he or she sold it in April when it had about 1,000 concurrent users to a New Zealand guy called Jansen Madsen, his handle is Jandal. Jandal is his handle. Jandal's his handle. And... so now he has it, and he's got it in a sort of joint venture with a studio called Splitting Point. And you have to do all the patches and the updates and all of that. And the whole point about games on Roblox is that you have to find a way to keep updating them, or they become sort of old hat, or no one cares anymore, or people find their ways around them, or they find different bits of source code and they can they can ruin them. So there is actually a lot of pressure if you run a game like this. But he's very unusual, this creator. He comes into the game and which doesn't really happen with other creators. This is like my children play a huge amount of Roblox, and they have done, for a long time. And they've been all the big games that have gone through Roblox, sort of Brookhaven, Adopt Me, I don't know, Dress to Impress. There's lots of these games, Jailbreak. They've played all of these.
Brookhaven, Adopt Me, Dress to Impress, Jailbreak, all the big ones.
Yeah. These are huge. By the way, these are such huge parts of my life, so I find it hilarious that you don't actually even know what I'm talking about. But okay, but as I say, they're all different, like lo-fi things. But he comes into the game, Jandal, and he can pick out individual users and give them things. But the clever thing he's done is that he has these kind of timed updates, so you all have to be there, and it's not like you have to spend money. Robux is the currency of the platform. You don't have to spend money, but these kind of in-game items are available during these limited time updates. So there's like a half an hour time on a Saturday so if you want to get those mega user numbers, which is he's obviously achieved, and it's become the most sort of biggest thing in the history of the platform, he's created these event moments. And the one that we've just had, we're recording this on a Monday, the one that happened on Saturday, Travis Kelce had come and has done a huge collaboration, and he gave all the players something. And, my children were so impressed. Like, they know who Travis Kelce is. It's a real celebrity. It's not like a gaming celebrity, which is, a gaming celebrity. It's not the same thing. And they just thought, this never happens in Roblox. This is really unusual. And so it's extraordinary how successful this game has become.
Travis Kelce also turns up on Happy Gilmore too, but we're going to get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. But wasn't the original BMW Lux supposedly 16 years old?
Yeah. I mean, Jandal doesn't look a whole lot older, I've got to tell you. I've seen lots and lots of TikTok. No, not at all. I mean, he wanted to go to college, and he wanted to get enough money, Jandal, to go to college and study marketing, apparently. But I think it's sort of booked like 150 million in sales, which is via Roblox purchases within the first 3 months of actually existing.
I mean, that's every single parent listening to this. And I know Roblox is absolutely huge, and their kids play it forever and ever. And, I get it. It keeps them quiet. But now they must be going, how come you didn't make $1 billion? you could have made grow a garden. It's only some carrots and some strawberries.
It's so basic and it's so sweet. It's like, oh, I want to grow a sugar apple, a special elder strawberry. I mean, it really is quite adorable. It's very interesting. And I once, you can see these incredible data visualizations of the games that surge on Roblox, and there were things like, as I say, Brookhaven or Blocks Fruits or any of those things, and suddenly they just become this dominant thing. It's interesting, and it's quite hard to sort of understand the world and the mindset and the sort of Gen Alpha of it all. But the next bit is I can see that the next big game that, as my children would put it, is really starting to cook is Steal a Brain Rot.
Sorry.
Now, it's called Steal a Brain Rot. Now, I don't know if we'll deal with Brain Rot in just a second. That's already a play on Grow a Garden. And Steal a Brain Rot is you have to acquire brain rots. Do you know what brain rots are?
Take a guess as to whether I know what they are.
Okay, you don't know what they are. Okay. Brain rots are a form of sort of Gen Alpha Pokemon, these kind of cutesy little animal something hybrids that are sort of ridiculous and that you've got to kind of collect. And it started with Italian brain rot, which were these kind of AI generated.
Oh, I know this. I know Italian.
You know
brain
this.
rot.
You know
Okay.
this.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Italian brain rot was earlier this year, so it's like before the flood times. I mean, like, who cares? And there are like Tralalero, Tralalali, the shark who was wearing the trainers. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And Ballerina Cappuccino, all these ones. Anyway, and so Steal a Brain Rot. The premise of this game is obviously Grow a Garden is very wholesome and very sweet and blah blah blah. But Steal a Brain Rot, already a sort of play on the title, is a sort of alley. But the game is you have to acquire brain rot and store them in a base which you have to defend against all the other people who want to steal them off you. And you kind of get it's absolutely brutal. You get some weapons, and all it is a sort of aisle between people's kind of fortresses where these brain rots are being kidnapped and stolen and taken away. And it's and baseball batted. I guess it's the obverse of Grow a Garden. Kids, you can see kids having sort of meltdown. There's all these viral videos of kids having meltdowns about it, because I suppose it sounds a little bit like Grow a Garden, and they've got their brain rots, which they're really proud of. And there are loads of adults do play Roblox, I should say. And they're just going in and stealing all these kids' brain rots.
But it's not compulsory, right?
No, it's not. Nobody has to do it, Richard, but they do it. This game is going massive now. So it's so interesting, the games, the game that becomes really big, and then the game that's a kind of reaction to it. And I was saying to my kids, is this like a satire on Grow a Garden? And they're like, yeah, a bit, but it's sort of like a joke about life. And it's okay.
Oh, not a joke about life.
A joke about life. Yeah, Steal a Brain Rot is just a joke about the pointlessness of existence, I think. But it's very, very interesting to watch this platform, which is, as I say, worth 10 times what Paramount, something we've obsessed about all week, all year, is actually worth, and is a huge, huge deal. And it's just, again, is very nimble and reactive, and is constantly coming up with these new things that suddenly go viral, and millions and millions and millions of people are playing them at once. If millions and millions of millions of people were watching one Netflix thing at once, we would never stop talking about it. We're going to talk a bit about how many people we think might have watched Happy Gilmore in its opening weekend on Netflix, but it will not be there were 22 million people watching it at once. There's just it just doesn't happen like that.
But it brings us back to the thing we talk about sometimes, where the decline of terrestrial TV, when people say, no, you've got to appeal more to kids. It's crazy. You've stopped appealing to kids. And, you can get this audience back. It cannot be overemphasized that we cannot get that audience back, because for something like Grow a Garden, it's more fun. It is more fun than pretty much anything you could put on TV, because it's TV that you play instead of TV that you watch.
It's a completely different language. How could you me even trying to pitch the idea of Steal a Brain Rot to you is so absurd. It's just like a sort of collection of vibes and memes and, reactions to the moment. And it happens, and maybe in 2 weeks it will be the biggest thing, and maybe it won't be anymore because something that's a reaction to that will have come along.
And also because it comes from a subsystem, which is very, very, very cheap to create something like that. At any given time, thousands and thousands of people are creating it, and one of them comes out of the top, and you cannot predict which it's going to be, and it becomes absolutely massive, and it becomes organic, and people add to it, and that's not something you've traditionally been able to do in television. It comes from nowhere. It's almost it's like punk.
Yeah, you're right. And it's something something that made me think about what you just said made me think about the gamification of absolutely everything. As we say, they accept that like whatever I would be planning otherwise doing on a Saturday, I've got to be here for this thing because you've just got to be there and it's fun and everyone's there and talking about it or whatever. And we've talked about gamification of all different types of things, but it seems silly when we've had million quiz shows and phone-ins and all of that, but television isn't really a place where you can have gamification, as it were. You can't grind and build stuff up and all the sort of things that feel just an intrinsic part of the dynamics of that generation and what they expect in everything. You know, you got to work, you got to stay, you've got to do all this stuff, and then you get enough points and then you get bigger. And how could television be like that? I can't picture it. Maybe you can.
Weirdly, there's a question I want to answer on our Q&A on Thursday, which is about, there's a French game show where you can build up huge amounts of money over a number of years. It's about as close as you can get. But it's genuinely, at the start of this, I didn't think I would be comparing Grow a Garden to punk, but there we are. Has it, can I ask on behalf of parents everywhere, has it made your children more interested in actual gardening?
No, it's really, when I said to one of my children, what do you like about it? And she said, I mean, it would just take so long and be such a hassle to do this in real life.
True though, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, and I'd have to wait ages. I was like, it seems like you're having to wait quite long for your sugar apples anyway. And she was like, yeah, but it's like a day. You know, it's not an unalloyed joy, is it?
There's one thing I read about it, which is you can sync it up to your local weather. So the weather outside can be the weather. That's cool.
Yes, there's lots of stuff like that. And it does, as I say, it's occasionally these things are used by kind of malign actors to kind of build up lots and lots of money. And then they sell those things on eBay or Eldorado or other platforms where people will actually pay real life money for stuff that's been built up in game or for a profile that's been built up in game. But in general, it remains a place of quite bucolic lo-fi charm.
Yeah, there's one of those things about games. There is some real joy to them, and there are some beautiful kind of very slow lo-fi games that do promote people looking after each other, people looking after themselves, people working hard, and this feels like one of them, right? But in the same way that we worry that violent video games will make our kids violent, I think there's no evidence that gardening video games make our kids garden. So maybe there's something.
No, but I do think they set the right circumstances for Steeler brain rot to then come into existence. So it's a push and pull, Richard.
God, I didn't say so many sentences in the last 20 minutes I've never heard before.
Absolute gibberish, isn't it? I'm so sorry if it's remained gibberish for our audience, but hopefully you're slightly enlightened. But anyway, it's a huge thing. And actually have a look at it. You don't have to play it yourself, but you can watch videos. If you just want to have a look, watch videos on YouTube of people playing it and you'll think, okay, so that's that thing then.
Marina, if I start playing that, that's the end of this podcast. Because I would get so obsessed with it.
Well, you have that tendency, don't you? That's why you can no longer do fantasy football.
Yeah, that's true. Shall we talk about something that feels more traditional and has sentences I would understand, which is the rise of Adam Sandler?
Yes.
Lots of people have signed big deals this week, but he signed a $275 million deal with Netflix. He's Netflix's most bankable movie star, that's for sure. He writes, produces, he's got his own production company, stars in these things as well. Happy Gilmore 2 is out this weekend. It's been an enormous success. And I just wondered if we could talk about what is it that has made Adam Sandler the king of Netflix?
Well, it's really interesting, and it's such a story of what happened to stardom and who realized it first and who didn't. If you look at those big stars, I suppose, big comedy stars of the 90s, early noughties, and you got Jim Carrey, Will Ferrell, Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen. I mean, you know, all those people, all the Judd Apatow crews. Adam Sandler had started as a sort of stand-up, and then he got SNL. He'd done Happy Gilmore, but he got his break in a Sony movie when Chris Farley died. That was Big Daddy. He became a sort of bought and paid for Sony star, and a bit like Will Smith. It's very interesting. Both those two were the two people that Sony Pictures really kind of bet their studio on. He's so interesting as emblematic of what happened to stardom. So they got paid in that old movie world, $20 million against 20% of the movie's gross receipts, whichever was higher. It's wild when you look at those numbers. Okay. A lot of this, by the way, we know from the Sony hack. Remember when the North Koreans, actually because of the South Park movie, hacked Sony Pictures, and we got the emails of all sorts of people, but principally in terms of interest from Amy Pascal, who was a big executive and who looked after people like Will Smith and Adam Sandler. Now, Sony executives used to joke that Will and Adam bought their houses because they made so much money for the company. There was a point where they accounted for 23% of Sony Pictures profits, and they got all this stuff, you know, like the basketball court on the lot was called Happy Madison Square Gardens. They always had use of the corporate jets. Sometimes Will Smith's entourage was so big he needed two. But and what was great about Adam Sandler particularly is that he's so prolific. He makes a lot of movies. He wants to make a lot of movies. But by the time it got to Jack and Jill, I think, which he played a man and his own twin sister, and that was in 2011, and it was just really cringe, and it didn't make any money, and
holds the world record for the most ever Razzies, the Golden Raspberry Awards. Yeah, won 10 Razzies.
Well, the next one he did was called That's My Boy, and that was, you know, like a classic sort of like one of those real late stage studio things, which was a comedy that cost $70 million and shouldn't cost anything like that. It was all for the talent costs, and that lost a load of money. And people, or some people, were beginning to realize, it's actually been realized this incredibly slowly in Hollywood, but that talent doesn't drive the theatrical business, the cinemas business any longer. It is IP and it's brands. People don't turn out, or were starting not to turn out because Adam Sandler was in it. So in a way, although no one, and still many people have not acknowledged this, A-list stars as an idea sort of collapsed. And at that point, in 2014, Ted Sarandos, co-CEO of Netflix, comes along, and they do not see in Adam Sandler a washed-up star that no one actually really cares about. They look at their data and they think, oh wow, all those people who used to go out in their teens and early 20s to watch Adam Sandler movies in the movie theaters, in the cinemas, they've all got kids, so they don't go out very much anymore. They all sit at home and they watch him like hell on our service. They watch so much Adam Sandler. He is brilliant for us. We should do a deal with him. So he sees the writing on the wall, Adam Sandler, and signs this sort of multi-year deal.
He was smart as well. He was smart enough to put his ego aside, because at that time it was very different, and Netflix was smaller and movies were still bigger, and he was one of the first people to really, really get that this was a great deal for him as well as a great deal for Netflix.
Yeah, and he did their first ever multi-movie deal, and all those things we've come to know about Netflix, which is that they want a lot. They want a lot of whatever the thing they're buying is. So whether that's like shows with massive libraries that they can stream and people keep going back because there's 20 series of it. He's the perfect Netflix star. He's very, very prolific. He wants to make a lot of movies. He's not particularly demanding. The humor is really quite basic and therefore doesn't feel like it can't be put in different territories. It doesn't feel like it's so sort of like highbrow and uniquely suited to,
it's got a real everyman quality for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's his screen persona, isn't he? He's like a sort of schlub who's a failure and he has to somehow pull it out of the bag to impress his friends. But he's a kind of, an overgrown man-child, really, in almost everything. But he did so well that, as you say, the next deal that he's done is a 4-movie deal or something, which is for $275 million. He's extremely interesting as someone who, as you say, worked out the way that wind was blowing. I would say, when I'm thinking of Happy Gilmore 2, I understand that it wasn't made by Universal, who made Happy Gilmore 1, and so therefore it wasn't in theaters and it's a Netflix thing and they make a big deal and that's the part of his deal with them. This would have performed very well in cinemas, and there's not that many comedies they put in cinemas. I think so. You would have, and you make a lot of money doing it that way, and then you could have put it straight onto, in a month or 6 weeks, you could have put it onto the service.
It also might not have done because it would have been made by Universal and there might have been different restrictions on it and the budget might have been less. And, because Happy Gilmore, it was huge, but it wasn't, it's not Top Gun. So Happy Gilmore 2
it's a cult thing, and over the years, it comes that thing where it accrues more fans because it's been constantly available on these services.
But cult things are perfect for Netflix. Cult things are less perfect for cinema release, I think. Anyway, I watched it.
Tell me, because I didn't watch it. I will watch it.
So Adam Sandler does have this everyman persona. He studied at Tisch, in NYC. He studied under David Mamet. He's a super bright guy. Every time he's in like what people would call a proper film, an Uncut Gems or Punch Drunk Love, he's a terrific actor. He's obviously a very, very smart guy. He's a terrific writer as well. But he does this sort of thing so well. So Murder Mystery and Murder Mystery 2 were his biggest hits for Netflix, and I suspect this will join them in the pantheon. I loved it. I love the original Happy Gilmore. This is so packed with cameos, which normally is the sign of this is going to be an absolute disaster. Like every golfer in the world is in it. Rory McIlroy is in it. Scotty Scheffler is in it, who was number one golfer. And by the way, turns out a great actor. There is nothing that Scotty Scheffler can't do.
What?
Rory
No
less
way.
so. Rory's a lovely presence. Scotty Scheffler actually a pretty good comic actor.
Is Bryson DeChambeau in it?
Bryson DeChambeau is in it. Brooks Koepka is in it. Jack Nicklaus is in it. Nick Faldo is in it, looking like he's had a makeover. I tell you who else is a great actor is Bad Bunny, who plays Adam Sandler's caddy. He is so funny in this film. He's so great in this film. He's full of stuff. Travis Kelce is in it. Eminem is in it. He turns up. Do you know the original film at all? The guy who shouts out.
Yes. Yeah. I've watched
the guy who shouts out
many
Jackass
times.
all the time.
Yeah,
Eminem plays the son of the man who shouts out Jackass, and is very, very funny. There's lots of kids of various people from the original film. Shooter McGavin is back, and I thought it's a really, really, really funny film. It's unreconstructed. It's all of those things, but it's got a huge heart. It's got a proper plot. Haley Joel Osment plays the baddie, the kid from Sixth Sense. I loved it, and I think what Adam Sandler's done throughout his career, he's shown himself to be an impressive businessman, but most of all, he's a great writer, writes a lot of his scripts with Tim Hurley. He's also in this movie, has a great payoff line in this movie. I just thought it's exactly what Netflix is for, which is his 2 hours just absolutely entertained from start to finish. Oh, I tell you who's brilliant in it, John Daly, the golfer. He is really great in it. I would say John Daly and Bad Bunny compete with each other to be the best celebrity cameo, and that was Scotty Scheffler a pretty close third.
It's incredible how people who've worked with him, first of all, he's very, very loyal to his friends in terms of casting. So so many of his movies have the same people in, but they all are so. I remember reading one profile, maybe a New York Times thing or a New Yorker thing, and you couldn't move for people who wanted to help the writer and be really, really nice about Adam Sandler, because they say he's so loyal. So you had obviously Ted Sarandos saying he's so loyal. You had Drew Barrymore saying just anything you want, if you need anything more, anything for Adam. So you just write, ring me to the person doing the profile. All of these people absolutely love him. You couldn't really, you can find lots of people who've got bad words to say about his movies because they think they're crude and basic and whatever, but you can't find people who've got too many bad things to say about him who've worked with him. It's sort of incredible, the roll call of people who are like, anything I could do to help.
Yeah, I love it. He talks about the casting of Eminem in this thing, and he said everyone all the way through the script, everyone's going, you should get Eminem to do this. It'd be really, really good part for Eminem. And he was like, oh, I don't want to bother him. He's in Detroit. He's doing this thing. Everyone goes, no, you've got to ask Eminem. He said, but Eminem's really busy. And he said in the end, he picked up the phone and asked Eminem, and Eminem went, yeah, of course I'll be in Happy Gilmore too. Are you mad? He was the first choice for Wonka. Adam Sandler, the Johnny Depp Wonka.
Sorry, I was imagining Eminem as Wonka, which was...
Oh no, not Eminem. That's very different.
That's an alternative take, isn't it?
Listen, it rhymes with a lot.
Yeah. And, maybe in the future, in a future version of it, they're always trying to make them darker and grittier, don't forget.
Do you have any recommendations this week, Marina?
I do have a recommendation. I have a book that I've absolutely just finished and I absolutely loved. It's called Diana World by Edward White, and it's about the sort of obsession. Is the best thing I've ever read about Princess Diana, and I've read all of it, including her own books. It's quite sort of highbrow, but it just managed to synthesize all the trash and all the treasure and all the sort of royal mythology and talk about like what she meant. It's not a biography at all. It's like a sort of biography of the obsession with her. It's really fascinating. I really loved it. As I say, it's quite a highbrow, but it's brilliantly done. Every single thing from the different tabloid reporters, all the way through the mediums, all the people she, the colonics, the whole lot of it. And then right back to all the kind of ancestral stuff. It's all fascinating. Anyway, I really like that. So that's Diana World by Edward White.
And I will recommend, we've had the nieces and nephew here all week. So we've watched, for example, K-pop Demon Hunters about 6 times, which is very enjoyable. But a YouTube series I loved is by these 2 guys called The Map Men. And they do like great YouTube videos, and it's things like, why is the United States of America the only thing that's allowed to call itself America? Where did that come from? Despite the fact it wasn't sort of discovered by Amerigo Vespucci, how did that happen? It does loads of things about why the English counties, the size and shape and names they are. Educational, smart, funny. So if you've got kids at home and you want something to stick them in front of that actually is going to entertain them, and if they like that sort of thing anyway, The Map Men, I've been enjoying them all week.
Oh my God, that I'm getting right into that, let me tell you. All right. Well, on that note, we will be back as always for our question and answers episode on Thursday.
This week, there's no bonus episode for our members due to Kefalonia and various technical issues we've been having, but I have a special treat for all of our members. I have 10 pairs of tickets to give away for the Thursday Murder Club premiere. It's going to be in Leicester Square. All the stars will be there. We've got Sir Ben Kingsley, Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, Celia Imrie, David Tennant is in it. Lots of huge names in it. I'll be there. My mum will be there. Marina, I'm very much hoping you'll be there as well. So I think it'll be a fun evening. So if you are a member, look out for the newsletter. If you're not a member, feel free to join. There will be other places to get those tickets to that premiere.
Oh, it's so exciting. On that note, see you on Thursday.
See you on Thursday.